welcome to our deep dive into mindset.
Ooh, interesting.
It's all about, those beliefs we all have about our abilities
Right, right.
and how those beliefs turns out
Yeah,
really shape our lives for better or for worse.
yeah, for sure.
So we're going to be unpacking all this
Right,
with
right.
insights from Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success.
Classic.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
And think of this deep dive as like your shortcut
Okay.
to understanding how your mindset
hmm
affects your achievements,
Yes.
your relationships,
Right.
even how you deal with,
Yeah.
all those inevitable curveballs that life throws our way.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really what's so eye-opening about Dweck's work, you know?
Yeah.
She doesn't just sort of describe these mindsets.
Right.
She gives you a framework for understanding them,
Yeah.
which is huge.
Yeah.
She breaks it down into two basic categories.
Okay.
You got the fixed mindset and you got the growth mindset.
That's okay.
And trust me, just grasping this difference can be a game changer.
So let's get right to it.
Okay.
What makes these two mindsets tick?
Yeah. What are we really talking about here when we say fixed versus growth?
Exactly.
Okay, so imagine you're learning to play the piano.
Okay.
You're a total beginner. Someone with a fixed mindset might approach it thinking like,
Mm-hmm.
either I'm naturally gifted at this or I'm not.
Right.
You know,
That would be either Mozart or
exactly.
Yeah.
And so every fumble, every like sour note
Yeah.
feels like proof that they just don't have the talent.
Right.
Their energy goes into like avoiding looking bad
Yeah.
rather than actually improving.
Yeah. It's almost like they're trying to prove something
Yes,
rather than really embracing that learning process.
precisely. Now, someone with a growth mindset
Right.
approaches that piano with a different tune, so to speak.
Okay.
They see each struggle, each less than perfect chord
Yeah.
as part of the journey.
Right.
They're not afraid to put in the work
Hmm.
because they believe effort is what unlocks their potential.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Gotcha.
they're not afraid to sound bad because they know
Right.
with practice they'll sound better.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But Dweck doesn't just talk about these mindsets like in theory.
Oh, no. This is very much like
Yes.
rubber meets the road stuff.
Right.
She goes deep into how they actually show up in the real world.
So she brings the receipts.
She brings the receipts.
I like it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is not just armchair psychology.
Yeah.
She's got the research to back it up.
I was going to say she uses some really compelling examples
Yes.
to show just how pervasive these mindsets are.
Oh, yeah.
A- And one that always sticks with me is about how we misunderstand the purpose of intelligence tests.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Even Alfred Binet, like the creator of the IQ test,
Right.
intended it to help students,
Yeah.
not to label them.
Wow. I didn't actually know that about Binet.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
That he intended it to help students who are struggling.
To identify like where they needed help,
Yeah.
not to just like put a label on them and be like,
Right.
you're this, you're that.
Yeah, it's like we've twisted this tool that was meant for support
Completely.
into something that limits people.
Yeah, and it really highlights how fixed mindset thinking can infiltrate
Yeah.
even our most well-intentioned systems.
Yeah.
And to Dweck's point, this isn't just about academics.
Right.
She shows how these mindsets impact us in practically every area of life.
You're making me really curious to see how these mindsets actually play out
Yeah.
in different contexts.
Yeah.
Where should we start?
Well, let's take the world of art.
Okay.
Think about how often you hear someone say, I'm just not creative, or I could never be an artist.
Right.
Dweck tackles this head on.
Okay.
She argues that artistic ability, just like any skill,
Yeah.
can be cultivated. She uses the example of drawing, showing how people can significantly improve with dedicated practice, regardless of their initial talent.
It's like that old saying, practice makes perfect.
Right.
But I think what's really powerful here is that Dweck's research backs this up.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just like a motivational quote.
No.
There's actual science behind it.
Exactly.
And this applies to...
and this applies even in fields that we typically associate with innate talent, like athletics.
Okay.
Dweck highlights how even champion athletes aren't simply born that way.
Right.
They cultivate a growth mindset that allows them to thrive on challenges and bounce back from setbacks.
So it's not just about natural ability.
Right.
It's about the way they approach their training, the way they view obstacles.
Totally. Their whole mental game.
Their whole mental game.
Their mental game.
Yeah, exactly.
And this isn't just about like individual pursuits either.
Oh.
Dweck takes this into the realm of business leadership.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
And the findings are really fascinating.
Tell me more about what she discovered about mindsets in the workplace.
Okay, so Dweck found that leaders with a growth mindset
Yeah.
create entirely different cultures than those with a fixed mindset.
Okay.
Growth-oriented leaders foster collaboration and learning.
Hmm.
They're not threatened by their team's success.
Right.
They see it as a win for everyone.
So they're more likely to build people up rather than tear them down.
Exactly.
Okay.
On the other hand, fixed mindset leaders often create these toxic environments where
Yeah.
everyone is trying to prove themselves,
Right.
constantly afraid of making mistakes.
It makes you wonder how much potential is being stifled in workplaces dominated by that fixed mindset.
It's a thought-provoking question, isn't it? And this leads to another critical area Dweck explores,
Yeah.
the impact of these mindsets on our personal relationships.
Now that's an area where I think we could all benefit from some deeper insight.
Yeah.
After all, who hasn't experienced those frustrating moments?
Yeah.
When communication breaks down or we feel like we're just not understanding each other.
It's so common.
Oh, yeah.
And Dweck's research sheds light on how our mindsets can either help us navigate those bumps in the road or make them feel like insurmountable obstacles.
Okay, tell me more about what she reveals about the connection between mindset and relationships.
So Dweck found that a fixed mindset can be a real relationship killer.
Okay.
Think about it. If you're constantly trying to prove you're right,
Yeah.
if you see your partner's flaws as permanent, it creates this atmosphere of judgment and defensiveness.
It's like you're setting yourselves up for conflict
Yes.
rather than connection.
Exactly. And on the flip side, a growth mindset allows you to see those disagreements, not as threats,
Okay.
but as opportunities to learn and grow together.
Right.
It's about understanding that you're both on a journey of evolution and you can support each other along the way.
So it's less about like winning an argument
Right.
and more about understanding each other's perspective.
Yeah. Yes.
It's about seeing those challenges as a chance to build something stronger
Yes.
together.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Yep.
And it's not just about how we handle conflict.
Yeah.
It's about the very foundation of the relationship.
Okay.
Dweck points out that a fixed mindset can lead you to search for a partner
Yeah.
who will simply validate your existing beliefs and never challenge you to grow.
It's almost like you're looking for a mirror rather than a partner.
Precisely. A growth mindset encourages you to seek a partner who inspires you to become a better version of yourself.
Right.
Someone who will challenge you to step outside your comfort zone and embrace new perspectives.
This is making me think about all those times
Yeah,
that I might have unconsciously slipped into a fixed mindset in my own relationships.
it happens.
And I can definitely see how that kind of thinking could create unnecessary friction.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's something we all do from time to time.
Yeah.
The key is to become aware of those patterns and start to challenge them. And that brings us to one of the most powerful insights from Dweck's work.
Give me the light bulb moment.
Okay, are you ready for this?
I am.
The way we praise children can actually have a huge impact on their mindsets
Okay.
and ultimately on their lives.
Really? So the words we use, the way we encourage them,
The words we use.
can actually shape their beliefs about themselves.
That's powerful stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. Dweck discovered something pretty surprising. Praising children for their intelligence
Yeah.
can actually backfire. It might seem counterintuitive, but constantly telling a kid they're smart can actually make them afraid to take risks.
Interesting.
They might start avoiding challenges because they're terrified of failing
Okay.
and no longer looking intelligent.
So what's the alternative?
Yeah. Should we just stop praising our kids altogether?
Right.
No, not at all. It's about shifting our focus from praising innate qualities like intelligence to praising effort and the process of learning. When we acknowledge a child's hard work, their perseverance, their willingness to try different approaches, we're sending a powerful message.
So we're saying it's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about embracing the journey, the ups, the downs,
Yes.
and learning from every experience.
Exactly. And that's the essence of a growth mindset.
This is all so fascinating, and I'm already feeling like I have a whole new lens to view my own mindset through.
Right. Isn't it powerful stuff?
It is
Yeah.
how it's affecting my life.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's truly empowering to realize that our mindsets are not set in stone.
Right.
We can actively cultivate a growth mindset,
Yeah.
and the benefits can be truly transformative.
Okay, I'm definitely feeling ready to explore that.
Yes.
But before we dive into how we can shift our mindsets,
Yeah.
I think we need to take a closer look at some of the common misconceptions about what a growth mindset actually is.
You're referring to what Dweck calls the false growth mindset,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I think a lot of people hear this term growth mindset,
Yeah.
and they think it's just about being positive
Right.
or flexible.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's a lot more to it than that.
Oh, there's so much more to it than that. It's
Yeah.
way deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a difference between genuinely embracing a growth mindset
Right.
and just kind of slapping a positive label on our old ways of thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For instance, many people equate a growth mindset with simply being flexible
Yeah.
or going with the flow,
Right.
but it's much deeper than that. It's
True.
not just about being agreeable. It's
Yeah.
about truly believing in the power of growth
Right.
and actively seeking opportunities to learn and evolve.
So it's less about being a yes man
Yes.
and more about being like a yes and kind of person.
Yes, exactly.
Someone who's open to new possibilities
Right.
and willing to stretch themselves
Yeah.
beyond their comfort zone.
That's a great way to put it. Another misconception is that a growth mindset means praising effort no matter what,
Yeah.
even if there's no real progress.
Right.
But Dweck emphasizes that effort alone isn't enough.
Okay.
It's about strategically combining effort with effective strategies,
Right.
seeking feedback, and being willing to adjust your approach.
So it's about working smarter, not just harder.
Yes.
And it's about being honest with ourselves about what's working and what's not,
Yes.
rather than just blindly putting in more hours.
You got it.
Okay.
And then there's this well-intentioned but potentially harmful idea that a growth mindset means telling kids they can be anything they want.
Right.
While it's great to encourage dreams, Dweck emphasizes the importance of being realistic.
Right.
A true growth mindset involves helping kids develop the skills and resilience they'll need to pursue their goals.
Right. So it's about empowering them with the tools and strategies.
Yes.
Not just feel-good affirmation.
Exactly.
It's about being their champion, not their cheerleader.
That's a fantastic way to frame it.
Okay.
It's about helping them navigate the real world with all its complexities and challenges, while fostering their belief in their own ability to grow and learn.
These distinctions are really helpful.
Right.
It's like we're peeling back the layers of what a true growth mindset looks like.
Yes.
Both in ourselves and in how we interact with others.
Yes.
Now that we have a clearer picture of what we're aiming for, let's dive into how we can actually make that shift happen.
All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
Dweck suggests a multifaceted approach to cultivating a growth mindset.
Okay.
And it all starts with awareness.
Okay.
It's about recognizing those moments when your fixed mindset is rearing its head.
So like those times when we start doubting ourselves, feeling threatened by challenges, or getting overly defensive when we receive feedback.
Exactly. It's about noticing those patterns without judgment.
Okay.
Simply observe those thoughts and feelings as they arise, like a scientist observing an experiment.
So it's not about beating ourselves up for having those fixed mindset moments.
Right.
It's about acknowledging your presence.
Right.
It's like saying, oh, there you are again. Fixed mindset.
Yeah.
Thanks for trying to protect me,
Right.
but I'm ready to try something new.
You got it.
Okay.
It's about recognizing those patterns without letting them control you.
Right.
Once you've acknowledged those fixed mindset tendencies, the next step is to pay attention to your triggers.
Okay.
What are the situations or events that tend to activate those negative thought patterns?
You know, I think this is where it gets really personal
Yeah.
because those triggers can be so different for each of us.
Yeah, they really can.
For some people, it might be public speaking.
Right?
For others, it might be receiving criticism on a project.
Totally.
And for others, it might be like as simple as comparing themselves to someone else's
Yeah.
highlight reel on social media.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The triggers are as individual as our fingerprints. But the key is to become aware of what sets you off.
Yeah.
What pushes those fixed mindset buttons?
So we need to do some self-reflection here.
Yeah, some introspection.
Think about those situations where you feel yourself getting defensive,
Right.
shutting down, or doubting your abilities.
Those are your triggers.
Yeah, those are likely my triggers.
Precisely. And once you've identified those triggers, what do you think comes next?
Well, my first instinct might be to just avoid those situations altogether.
Okay.
If public speaking makes me nervous,
Yeah.
maybe I just won't volunteer for any presentations.
Okay.
If receiving criticism makes me feel like a failure,
Yeah.
maybe I'll just try to like fly under the radar and avoid any situations where I might get feedback.
That's a natural impulse.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
Okay.
it's a recipe for staying stuck. Remember, a growth mindset thrives on challenges.
So running away from those triggers is the opposite of what we should be doing.
Exactly. Instead of avoiding those situations, Dweck suggests we learn to reframe them.
Okay, let's talk about reframing.
Yeah.
What does that actually look like?
Yeah. What does that mean?
It sounds kind of abstract.
Yeah.
How do we take a situation that normally triggers those fixed mindset thoughts
Right.
and turn it into something that actually helps us grow?
Okay, so it's about consciously choosing a different way to interpret those triggering situations.
Okay.
It's about shifting your perspective,
Right.
changing the narrative in your head.
Okay.
For example, let's say you receive some constructive criticism on a project at work.
Ooh, I think most of us can relate to that.
Right.
Yeah, it's never fun to hear that we could have done something better,
Right.
especially if we've poured our heart and soul into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And with a fixed mindset, you might immediately feel defensive or discouraged.
Right.
You might start thinking, see, I knew I wasn't good enough, or I'm just not cut out for this.
That's my inner critic talking loud and clear.
Right. But with a growth mindset,
Yeah.
you can choose to see that feedback as valuable information.
Okay.
You can ask yourself, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
Or how can I use this feedback to improve my skills?
So it's about shifting from I'm a failure to this is an opportunity to learn and grow.
Exactly. It's about focusing on the growth potential in every situation,
Yep.
even the ones that feel challenging or uncomfortable.
Right.
And remember, it's not just about changing your thoughts.
Okay.
It's also about changing your actions.
What do you mean by changing our actions?
Well, a growth mindset isn't a passive belief system.
Okay.
It's a way of being in the world.
Right.
It's about actively seeking challenges, embracing feedback, and putting in the effort to learn and grow.
So it's not just about thinking differently.
Right.
It's about acting differently.
Precisely. And Dweck offers some really practical tips
Yep.
for putting this into action.
Okay.
For example, she suggests creating specific plans for dealing with those fixed mindset triggers. So let's go back to that example of public speaking.
Okay.
If you know that's a trigger for you, create a plan.
Right.
Practice your presentation, visualize yourself succeeding,
Okay.
and focus on your message rather than your fear.
So it's about having a game plan
Yeah.
for those moments when your fixed mindset is most likely to take over.
Yeah.
It's like saying, okay, fixed mindset, I know you're going to try to sabotage me here,
Yeah.
but I'm one step ahead of you.
I love that analogy. It's about being proactive rather than reactive.
Okay.
And another key aspect of cultivating a growth mindset is seeking out feedback.
Ooh, that's a tough one for a lot of people,
Yeah, it can be hard.
myself included.
I hear you.
Yeah.
It can be hard to open ourselves up to criticism,
Right.
even if we know it's meant to be helpful.
Yeah.
But think of feedback as a gift.
Okay.
It's information that can help you grow and improve.
Right.
And when you approach feedback with a growth mindset,
Yeah.
you're less likely to take it personally and more likely to see it as an opportunity for learning.
So instead of thinking, this person is attacking me,
Right.
we can think, this person is giving me valuable insights that can help me get better.
Exactly. And remember, feedback doesn't have to come from experts or authority figures. It can
Right.
come from peers, friends,
Yeah.
family members,
Yeah.
even your kids.
Oh, that's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Kids can be some of our greatest teachers,
Oh, they really can.
especially when it comes to honesty and seeing things from a fresh perspective.
They sure can.
Yeah.
And speaking of kids, this brings us back to the crucial role of praise in shaping mindsets.
Okay.
Because not all praise is created equal.
This is where it gets really fascinating.
Right.
We talked earlier about how praising intelligence can actually backfire.
Yes, it's very counterintuitive.
But what's the alternative? How do we praise in a way that encourages a growth mindset?
Dweck suggests focusing on the process rather than the outcome.
Okay.
Instead of praising a child for being smart or talented, praise their effort, their strategies,
Okay.
their perseverance, their willingness to learn from their mistakes.
So it's about saying things like, I'm so proud of how hard you worked on that.
Yes.
Or I noticed you tried a different approach this time. That's great.
Exactly. And it's not just about the words we use.
Yeah.
It's also about the message we convey
Right.
when we focus on the process.
Yeah.
We're teaching kids that their abilities are not fixed, they're malleable.
Right.
We're showing them that growth is possible,
Yeah.
and it's something they have the power to influence.
This is making me think about all the ways we as adults can
Yeah.
apply this to our own lives.
Absolutely.
It's not just about how we raise our kids.
Right.
It's about how we talk to ourselves,
Yes.
how we approach challenges, how we view our own potential.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
This is where self-compassion comes into play.
Okay.
We need to be as kind and encouraging to ourselves
Yeah.
as we are to the people we love. When you stumble, when you face a setback,
Yeah.
when those fixed mindset thoughts creep in,
Yeah, they always do.
don't beat yourself up.
Right. So it's about giving ourselves that same pep talk
Exactly.
that we would give a friend
Yes.
who's feeling discouraged.
Yes.
It's about saying, hey, it's okay. You're learning. You're growing. You've got this.
You nailed it. And remember, developing a growth mindset is a journey,
Yeah.
not a destination. There will be times when you slip back into those old patterns,
Right.
when you feel discouraged or doubt your abilities.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of people struggle with.
Oh, yeah.
They feel like they have to be perfect growth mindset gurus.
Right.
And if they have a moment of self-doubt,
Yeah.
they feel like they failed.
That's such a common misconception.
Yeah.
A true growth mindset isn't about never experiencing those negative thoughts or feelings.
Right.
It's about recognizing them, acknowledging them, and choosing a different path. It's about saying, okay, I'm feeling stuck, but I'm not going to let that define me. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to learn and grow.
So it's about resilience,
Yes.
bouncing back from those setbacks and using them as fuel for growth.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like that saying, fall 7 times, stand up 8.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
And one of the most powerful tools we have in this process is our self-talk.
You mean that inner voice that's constantly chattering away in our heads?
Exactly.
The one that can either be our biggest cheerleader or our worst critic.
Exactly. And with a growth mindset,
Yeah.
we can learn to use that inner voice to our advantage.
Okay.
We can start to challenge those negative self-limiting thoughts
Right.
and replace them with more positive, empowering ones.
So instead of saying, I'm not good at this,
Yeah,
we can say, I'm still learning and I'm getting better with practice.
exactly. It's about reframing those thoughts, shifting from judgment to growth.
Okay.
And it's about focusing on what you can control, which is your effort.
Yeah. Your attitude and your willingness to keep learning.
This is all so empowering, and I'm already feeling more equipped to tackle those mindset shifts in my own life.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. That's what it's
Yeah.
all about.
But before we move on, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier. The impact of mindset on relationships.
Oh, okay. Yes, let's do this.
We talked about how a fixed mindset can lead to blame and judgment.
Right.
But I'm wondering, are there any specific examples from Dweck's book that really illustrate this point?
Oh, absolutely. Dweck shares some fascinating research on how mindsets play out in romantic relationships.
Okay.
For example, she talks about a study
Mm-hmm.
where couples were asked to discuss a conflict in their relationship.
Okay, this sounds like a real-life test of how these mindsets play out when things get tough.
Oh, for sure.
What happened? How did the different mindsets approach that conversation?
Well, the researchers found that couples with a fixed mindset
Okay.
tended to get stuck in those blame and defend patterns we talked about earlier.
They focused on their partner's flaws,
Okay.
seeing them as fixed and unchangeable.
So they were more likely to say things like, you always do this.
Ex-
Exactly. You never listen to me.
Exactly. And they were more likely to use those negative communication styles.
Right. That relationship research, those communication styles. Really fascinating.
Yeah. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
not surprising,
Not surprising. Once we start to understand how those fixed mindsets work,
Right.
you can see them everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah. You start to see them in yourself.
Right.
You start to see them in other people,
In other people, yeah.
in systems and institutions.
Yeah, it's like a whole new lens for viewing the world.
Totally.
So in this part, I really want to focus on how we can actually cultivate a growth mindset.
Okay. Yes. Let's get practical.
Let's get practical because we've talked a lot about the theory,
Right.
but now it's like, okay,
Yeah. How do we actually apply this to our lives?
how do we do this?
Yes, exactly.
So Dweck, she doesn't leave us hanging.
She doesn't.
She gives us some really insightful strategies for making that shift.
Yes, she does.
But before we jump into the how-to,
Okay.
I think it's important to talk about what she calls the false growth mindset.
Yes. This is so important.
Because it's amazing how many people think they've embraced a growth mindset.
That's right.
When in reality, they've fallen into some common traps.
Yes, it's like they've got the label, right?
Yeah.
But they haven't really internalized the concept.
Right. It's like there's a difference between genuinely embracing a growth mindset and just kind of slapping a positive label on our old ways of thinking.
Exactly.
So let's talk about some of those traps.
Okay, let's unmask those imposters.
Okay.
One of the biggest ones
Okay.
is that people equate a growth mindset with just being flexible or going with the flow.
Okay, so it's more than just being chill.
It's way more than just being chill.
Okay.
It's not just about being agreeable.
Right.
It's about truly believing in the power of growth and actively seeking opportunities to learn and evolve.
So it's less about being a yes man
Right.
and more about being a yes and
Yes.
kind of person.
Yes, exactly.
Someone who's open to new possibilities and willing to stretch themselves beyond their comfort zone.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, what's another trap?
Another misconception is that a growth mindset means praising effort no matter what,
Okay.
even if there's no real progress.
Right, so just like blindly keep trying, even if you're banging your head against the wall.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
But Dweck emphasizes that effort alone isn't enough.
Why?
It's about strategically combining effort with effective strategies,
Okay.
seeking feedback, and being willing to adjust your approach as needed.
So it's about working smarter, not just harder.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's about being honest with ourselves about what's working and what's not,
Right.
rather than just blindly putting in more hours.
Right, because sometimes we need to shift gears,
Exactly.
not just keep pushing in the same direction.
Exactly.
Okay, I like it.
And then there's this well-intentioned but potentially harmful idea
Yep.
that a growth mindset means telling kids they can be anything they want.
Right, like you can be an astronaut and a ballerina and a brain surgeon all at the same time.
Yeah. And while it's great to encourage dreams,
Right.
Dweck emphasizes the importance of being realistic.
Got it.
A true growth mindset involves helping kids develop the skills and resilience they'll need to pursue their goals, whatever those goals may be.
So it's about empowering them with tools and strategies.
Yes.
Not just feel-good affirmations.
Exactly.
It's about being their champion, not their cheerleader.
That's a fantastic way to frame it.
Okay.
It's about helping them navigate the real world with all its complexities and challenges,
Right.
while fostering their belief in their own ability to grow and learn.
These distinctions are really helpful.
Right.
It's like we're peeling back the layers of what a true growth mindset looks like,
Yes.
both in ourselves and in how we interact with others. Now that we have a clearer picture of what we're aiming for, let's dive into how we can actually make that shift happen.
All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
Dweck suggests a multifaceted approach to cultivating a growth mindset.
Okay.
And it all starts with awareness.
Okay.
It's about recognizing those moments when your fixed mindset is rearing its head.
So like those times when we start doubting ourselves,
Yeah,
feeling threatened by challenges or getting overly defensive when we receive feedback.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's about noticing those patterns without judgment.
Okay.
Simply observe those thoughts and feelings as they arise,
Right.
like a scientist observing an experiment.
So it's not about beating ourselves up for having those fixed mindset moments.
Right.
It's about just acknowledging their presence.
Right.
It's like saying, oh, there you are again, fixed mindset.
Yeah.
Thanks for trying to protect me,
Right.
but I'm ready to try something new.
You've got it.
Okay.
It's about recognizing those patterns without letting them control you. Once you've acknowledged those fixed mindset tendencies, the next step is to pay attention to your triggers.
Okay.
What are the situations or events that tend to activate those negative thought patterns?
You know, I think this is where it gets really personal
Yeah.
because those triggers can be so different for each of us.
Yeah, they really can.
For some people, it might be public speaking.
Right.
For others, it might be receiving criticism on a project.
Totally.
And for others, it might be as simple as comparing themselves to someone else's highlight reel on social media.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The triggers are as individual as our fingerprints.
Okay.
But the key is to become aware of what sets you off,
Yeah.
what pushes those fixed mindset buttons.
So we need to do some self-reflection here.
Yes, some introspection.
Think about those situations where you feel yourself getting defensive,
Right.
shutting down, or doubting your abilities.
Those are your triggers.
Yeah, those are likely my triggers.
Precisely. And once you've identified those triggers,
Yeah.
what do you think comes next?
Welcome back to our deep dive into mindset.
Glad to be back.
We've been exploring how this idea of a growth mindset can really change the way we approach everything,
Right.
from challenges to learning from mistakes to even handling criticism.
It really touches every part of life.
Yeah. And in this final part of our deep dive, I want to zoom in on one of the most important areas of life where mindset can make a huge difference.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's our relationships.
Ah, yes, relationships. The ultimate proving ground for any mindset, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, because it's one thing to have a growth mindset about your own abilities,
Yeah.
but can you extend that same grace and understanding to the people you love?
Right. So how does a growth mindset change the game
Okay.
when it comes to love? What does it look like to approach relationships with that growth is always possible attitude?
Well, Dweck gives some really practical advice in her book
Mm-hmm.
about how to cultivate a growth mindset in love. One of the biggest shifts is moving away from that search for the perfect partner mentality.
Oh, the perfect partner myth.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Instead, she suggests focusing on finding someone who inspires you to grow and evolve.
So it's not about finding someone who checks all the boxes on your predetermined list.
Right, because those lists,
Yeah.
they can be so limiting.
Right.
Yeah, you end up looking for a fantasy
Yeah.
instead of a real person.
So it's more about finding someone
Mhm.
who challenges you to
Yeah.
become a better version of yourself.
Exactly. It's about choosing a partner who supports your ambitions,
Mhm.
encourages you to step outside your comfort zone,
Yeah.
celebrates your successes,
Yeah.
even when they might outshine their own.
It's not about competition.
No.
It's about like mutual growth.
Yeah, mutual growth.
Okay.
It's beautiful when you find that.
That's a pretty amazing dynamic to aim for.
It is.
But I think what a lot of people struggle with
Yeah.
is how to handle conflict in a relationship.
Oh, yeah. Conflict.
Yeah, it's easy to slip into those like blame and defend patterns.
Right. Especially when emotions are running high.
Right.
All those old patterns come rushing back.
Yeah.
But remember, with a growth mindset,
Mm-hmm.
challenges are seen as opportunities for learning and strengthening the bond.
Right. So instead of thinking like,
Mhm.
here we go again,
Right.
it's more about saying, okay, what's going on here? How can we work through this together?
That's the spirit. Be willing to own your part in the conflict,
Yeah.
even if it's uncomfortable.
Right.
Apologize when necessary and focus on finding solutions that work for both of you.
It's about remembering you're on the same team,
Yeah.
even when it feels like you're on opposite sides of the issue.
Exactly. And one of the most powerful things you can do
Okay.
in any relationship, especially when things get tough,
Hmm.
is to simply listen with empathy.
Just listen.
Just listen. Try to really understand where your partner is coming from, even if you don't agree with their perspective.
Because when you feel heard
Right.
and understood,
Yeah.
it's so much easier to let go of that defensiveness
It is.
and be more open to,
Right.
finding a resolution that works for everyone.
Absolutely. And here's another key point Dweck makes about relationships and mindset. A growth mindset doesn't mean staying in a relationship that is clearly no longer serving you.
Oh, that's so important.
Right.
Because I think sometimes people might hear growth mindset
Yeah.
and think it means they have to try to fix every relationship.
Right, no matter how toxic it might be.
Right.
But a growth mindset actually empowers you to make choices
Yeah.
that are aligned with your own growth and well-being.
Yeah, sometimes the most growth-oriented decision
It's true.
is knowing when to walk away
Exactly.
from a situation that's no longer serving you.
It's about trusting your intuition
Yeah.
and having the courage to create healthy boundaries.
Right.
Even if it means letting go of something
Mm-hmm.
that was once important to you.
It's about recognizing that sometimes growth means letting go.
You got it. And even when a relationship ends,
Yeah.
a growth mindset allows you to see the experience not as a failure,
Right.
but as an opportunity for learning and self-discovery.
So instead of asking, what's wrong with me,
Right.
we can ask, what did I learn from this experience?
Mhm.
How can I use this to grow and make healthier choices in the future?
Exactly. It's about reclaiming your power and seeing yourself as the author of your own love story.
I like that.
And that's true growth.
Yeah, this has been an incredible deep dive into this world of mindset.
I know, it's fascinating stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, and how it shapes our relationships. I feel like I have so much to think about
Mm-hmm.
and apply to my own life.
Me too.
So before we wrap up,
Okay.
is there one final piece of wisdom you'd like to share with our listeners?
You know, throughout our exploration of Dweck's work, what struck me most is this. We all have fixed mindset moments.
Oh,
That's part of being human.
We're not perfect.
We're not perfect. The key is not to judge ourselves for those moments, but to simply notice them,
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge them, and choose a different path.
Right.
Remember, growth is always possible in ourselves and in our relationships.
That's such a powerful reminder. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure. Really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah.
And to our listeners,
Yes.
we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of mindset.
Absolutely.
Remember, you have the power to choose how you view yourself,
Yes, you do.
your abilities, and your relationships.
Choose growth.
Choose growth.
Choose possibility.
Choose possibility.
And keep learning.
Yeah, keep evolving.
Keep embracing the incredible journey of being human.
Well said.
That's all for this episode. Until next time.